May 25th, 2005. Champions League Final. Istanbul. AC Milan versus Liverpool. Halftime, the scoreboard reads 3-0. In the tunnel, Liverpool's players look broken. 3 goals down, against the best team in Europe. 45 minutes left. Every logical analysis points to one conclusion. It's over. Then something happens that cannot be explained by tactics alone. Something rooted in years of tragedy, sacrifice, and collective belief. In the second half, Liverpool score 3 goals in 6 minutes. They draw level. They win on penalties. The Miracle of Istanbul. But here's the real question. How does a football club develop the mentality to come back from the impossible? Not once, not twice, but as a way of being? Today, we break down the mindset behind the most resilient football club in history and the 4 principles you can take directly into your business and your life. Liverpool Football Club was founded in 1892 in the working-class heart of England's northwest, a port city, a community built on labor, grit, and unbreakable loyalty. From the very beginning, Liverpool wasn't just a football club. It was an identity, a religion. Bill Shankly, the greatest manager in the club's history, arrived in 1959. Liverpool were in the 2nd division, forgotten, struggling, irrelevant. Shankly didn't just rebuild the team, he rebuilt the soul of the club. He once said, "Football is not a matter of life and death. I can assure you, it is much, much more important than that." It sounds like a joke, but in Liverpool, people understood exactly what he meant. Because for this club, football has never been just a sport. It's been a community, a language. And after 1989, it became something even deeper. To understand Liverpool's mindset, you need to understand 4 principles that have defined this club across every era. When Bill Shankly arrived at Liverpool, he had limited money, limited resources, and a squad that was going nowhere. What he had was a philosophy, and it was radical. He believed that collective belief was more powerful than individual talent, that a team that trusted each other, truly trusted, would always outperform a collection of stars who didn't. He built his Liverpool around that idea. Tight unit, clear identity, non-negotiable culture. Within a decade, Liverpool were winning 1st division titles and competing in Europe. And then there's the anthem, "You'll Never Walk Alone," a song from a 1945 musical, became Liverpool's battle cry in the 1960s. Every match, every stadium, 50,000 voices in unison. Think about what that does to a player stepping onto the pitch. Think about what it does to a team trailing 3-0 at halftime in Istanbul. Belief is infrastructure. Culture is competitive advantage. Jurgen Klopp understood this completely when he arrived in 2015. His first press conference, he said, "I want to turn doubters into believers." He didn't talk about formations. He didn't talk about signings. He talked about belief. GOAT principle number 1. Build around belief, not just talent. In your business, culture isn't the soft stuff. Culture is the hard stuff. It's what determines how your team responds when the deal falls through, when the launch fails, when the quarterly numbers are red. The companies that survive crises aren't the ones with the best product. They're the ones with the strongest belief system, the clearest identity, the deepest trust. What does your team actually believe in? And is that belief strong enough to hold when things fall apart? April 15th, 1989. FA Cup semi-final. Hillsborough Stadium, Sheffield. What happened next was not football. It was the darkest day in the club's history, and one of the darkest in British sport. A crush in the stadium's standing terraces. 97 Liverpool supporters lost their lives. 97 people who went to watch football and never came home. In the days that followed, the Anfield pilgrimage began. Thousands of fans from across the country made the journey to Anfield just to stand, to grieve, to be together. The pitch was covered in flowers. The gates became a monument. The city held its breath for weeks. But then something else happened. Something that defines Liverpool's character more than any trophy ever could. For years, decades, the families of the 97 were lied about, blamed by the media, blamed by authorities, their loved ones' memories attacked. They didn't give up. They didn't go quiet. They fought. For 27 years, they campaigned for truth and justice. In 2016, an inquest finally ruled the 97 were unlawfully killed. They were not to blame. 27 years of fighting, and they won. That is the Liverpool character. That is You'll Never Walk Alone, not as a lyric, but as a lived reality. GOAT principle number 2, turn tragedy into fuel. Pain is inevitable in any meaningful pursuit, in sport, in business, in life. The question is never whether you'll face adversity. It's what you do with it. The families of Hillsborough turned grief into a decades-long campaign for justice. Liverpool, as a club, turned collective pain into collective identity. What has your business been through that made you stronger? What setback are you sitting in right now that could become your turning point? Your darkest chapters don't have to define you, but they can, if you let them, forge you. If this story is hitting different for you, drop a like. It genuinely helps the channel. Liverpool win the First Division title, and then nothing. 30 years of waiting. 3 decades without a league title for one of the biggest clubs in the world. Years of near misses, false dawns, and heartbreaks. None more painful than 2014, when Steven Gerrard, the club's captain and legendary midfielder, slipped on the pitch in a crucial match against Chelsea. Liverpool gave up the lead. They lost the title by 2 points, 30 years, and a slip. Most clubs would have panicked, spent recklessly, fired managers after one bad season, chased short-term fixes. Liverpool chose a different path. When Jurgen Klopp arrived in October 2015, the club was in 10th place. His brief wasn't to win immediately. It was to build something that would last. He took 3 seasons to lay the foundation. He built a system, high press, high intensity, total belief. He recruited players the world overlooked, Salah, Mane, Robertson, Van Dijk, and turned them into world-class performers. He didn't chase stars, he built them. And in 2020, 30 years after the last title, Liverpool were crowned Premier League champions with 7 games to spare, the earliest title in the competition's history. The wait was over. The process was vindicated. GOAT principle number 3, trust the long game. We live in a world that rewards urgency, that punishes patience, that celebrates the overnight success story and forgets the 10-year grind underneath it. But every great business, every great anything, is built on compounding, on trusting a process that doesn't pay off immediately, on doing the right things, day after day, without the guarantee of a quick return. Klopp waited. Liverpool waited. 30 years of waiting paid off in a title that meant more than any other. What long game are you playing? And are you patient enough to see it through? And now we come full circle. Back to Istanbul, 3-0 down at half-time. In a Champions League final. What Klopp called mentality monsters, this is what he meant. Not players who never struggle. Not a team that never goes behind, but a group that has so deeply internalized the belief that they can never truly be beaten, that they make the mathematically improbable feel inevitable. In the Istanbul dressing room at halftime, Steven Gerrard looked at his teammates and said, "This is our time. Let's go." 54 minutes played. Game over. On paper. They scored at 54 minutes, at 56, at 60, 3-3, then penalties, then the trophy. The Miracle of Istanbul wasn't a miracle. It was the consequence of a culture that refused to accept defeat as final. And Klopp rebuilt that culture 15 years later. Different players, same DNA. His most famous words, "If you don't let the bad thoughts limit you, then you can fly." That's not motivational poster material. That's a psychological operating system. A decision that the scoreboard, in football or in life, is not the final word until the final whistle. GOAT principle number 4. Mentality monsters never quit. In business, the game is never over when it feels over. The deal that fell through, the product that flopped, the month where nothing worked. The mentality monster looks at those moments not as endings, but as halftime scores. What's your Istanbul? What situation in your business have you already written off that's actually still winnable? So let's bring this home. 4 principles from the most resilient football club in history. Principle 1. Build around belief, not just talent. Culture is your greatest competitive advantage. What your team believes in, together, will determine how they perform when everything is on the line. Principle 2. Turn tragedy into fuel. Pain doesn't disqualify you from greatness. It can forge you if you choose to let it. Principle 3. Trust the long game. 30 years. One slip, one rebuild. One title that meant everything. Patience and process always compound. Principle 4. Mentality, monsters never quit. The scoreboard is not the final word. Not at halftime. Not in business. Not in life. From Shankly's revolution to Istanbul. From Hillsborough to the Premier League trophy in 2020. Liverpool's story isn't a football story. It's a mindset story. And if you want to go deeper, all 10 GOAT mindset principles broken down and applied to business and life. They're in my ebook, The GOAT Formula. Link is in the description. Go get it. You'll never walk alone. 4 words. 1 philosophy that built an empire. Drop a comment below. Which of these 4 principles hits hardest for you right now? I want to know. Subscribe if you want more GOAT-level breakdowns every week. Athlete mindset, business lessons, the kind of thinking that actually moves the needle. I'll see you in the next one.